Today, I want to talk about the book of Habakkuk and sort of give you a really quick summary and explain what's going on in this book as an overview. So, I don't do a lot of Bible book overviews, but I do them when I've taught or preached through the book, so I know it fairly well at that point. So, this isn't just a conglomeration of other people's study, this is actually my study and what I found in there. And Habakkuk is one of my favorite Old Testament books, and there's one really cool quirk about it I'm going to tell you at the end, so watch to the end so you get that thing. But let's start off with recognizing this is a minor prophet. Habakkuk is a minor prophet, and that's simply because he's not one of the biggest books of prophets in the Old Testament. He's not Isaiah, he's not Jeremiah, he's not Ezekiel. So there's your Habakkuk. But Habakkuk is a very real story about a guy who had trouble trusting God. And there's a great book on this, and I'm going to put an affiliate link for you in the description called Faithful Doubt. And we actually went through that book while I preached through it in a separate Bible study at my church. And I really love the way this guy presents the doubt of Habakkuk. But Habakkuk starts off and he's wondering, okay, God, why are you letting sin happen? And then God answers him back and says, don't worry, I've got it covered. These evil people are going to punish you for the sin. And he's like, no, not them, that's terrible. And this poor guy just keeps getting ripped around. And the crazy thing about Habakkuk is he never loses his faith in God. He keeps going to God. And Habakkuk sets an example for us of, I might feel emotions that don't feel right. Like these are not the emotions my pastor would recommend that I feel from the pulpit about God's truth, but they're real emotions. They're actual things that hit real people. And that's the cool thing about Habakkuk's story, because he's faithful in that because he takes them to God. Whatever emotion you feel is real, and you can't stop yourself from feeling emotions. That's just silly. But when you do feel emotion, do you take it to God and ask him to help you process it better? And that's what Habakkuk does really, really well. There's a couple of really cool verses in Habakkuk I want to point out to you. Probably one of the most famous verses in Habakkuk comes in chapter 3, and this is one of my favorite verses. And Habakkuk says, though the fig doesn't blossom, though none of this stuff is going to work, though my life sort of crumbles around me, I'm going to trust in God. I'm going to put my faith, my hope, my trust in him. And it's such a great thing. Such good news for believers in Jesus Christ too, because even if our life is crumbling, we can trust that Jesus holds our salvation secure, not ourselves, because he's a great God like that. And Habakkuk does that. But then also one really cool thing that we also see in Habakkuk, and this is in chapter 2, verse 4, and this is where Habakkuk gets quoted by Paul. Habakkuk has actually got only one verse that's quoted throughout the rest of your Bibles in the New Testament, and here was his big verse. Behold, as for the proud one, his soul is not right within him, but the righteous will live by faith. And that's awesome. There's so many parallels to that in the New Testament, looking at God opposing the proud, getting rid of the proud, but then the righteous are living by faith. So the lesson in Habakkuk is how we process things emotionally faithfully, and we take that to God and we give it to God. And Habakkuk gives us a great example of that, but he also tells us that we need to live by faith. Habakkuk has a bunch of oracles in it, and oracles are prophecy. And I'd like you to check out my video on how to interpret prophecy. As you go into a deeper study dive of the book of Habakkuk, check out my video on how to interpret prophecy so that you can understand even better as you dig into this awesome book.